To my channel. My name is Stacey Flowers and I am a student of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University and on a journey to become 100% debt free. My current debt is nearly $200,000. I'm on baby step number 2 to repay all of my debts. I work for myself part-time and last month my income was $4,300. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my sick and tired moment. So if you are interested in hearing that, please keep watching. I want to talk about my sick and tired moment, and for those of you who are not familiar, Dave Ramsey has a radical debt elimination and financial management program, and inside of his program philosophy, he talks about, and often when people come to do their debt-free screening, he asks people, you know, what happened, 12 months ago, 36 months ago, what happened before you got started? What was your sick and tired moment is how he describes it. And what he says is what he knows from experience is that people will not actually be able to pay off all of their debt. One, pay off all of their debt, and two, be gazelle intense until they hit their sick and tired moment. It's an experience that you need to have in order to be the catalyst for you to actually change your situation financially. And also, my sick and tired moment was in September of 2017. And what happened, oh man, I didn't want to be emotional. Okay, so what happened in September of 2017 is I woke up and I couldn't recognize myself. Like, I wasn't around my son, I wasn't in my home, my family wasn't near. It was really difficult for me to think. It was really difficult for me to read. And it was really, really hard for me to speak. And that's what I mean when I say I couldn't recognize myself. Like, the things that were important to me, this is like 5 seconds into the video. Okay. The things that were important to me, I was very far away from them. And I woke up in September and I just couldn't recognize myself. And leading up to this, I was literally at the pinnacle of the success that I had defined for myself. I was making a crap ton of money. I cannot emphasize enough how much money I was making. 2016 was a glorious year. I delivered a TED Talk. I upgraded my home. My son was doing well. My skin was beautiful. It was the winningest year ever in all the land. Like, things were going so well. And I had hit sort of like this pinnacle of success, and so it's like that was what was going on. And at the first month of the second quarter, I launched a premium conference, and my conference was going really well. And when I say it's a premium conference, my tickets were between $500 and $1,000, and people were purchasing tickets to go to this 3-day conference that I had launched. And so from a financial perspective, things were going well. From a relational perspective, things were going well. From a spiritual perspective, things were going well. But as well as all of those things were going sort of externally, internally, emotionally, and mentally, things were not going well. And I didn't know, because I just assumed that because all this new, wonderful, awesome stuff was going on, that this was the explanation for the internal stress that I was having. And so all of that's happening. My conferences, tickets are selling and all of these wonderful things are happening. And then towards the end of that year, I go to, because my conference is doing well, me and my event planner make a plan to take my conference to New York. And so I go to New York at the end of the year, beginning of the next year. And when I get to New York, we're scouting locations, and it's this beautiful thing. I think I'm in New York for like 3 or 4 days. Then I come home, and when I come home, I can't go into my house and like stay there. Like, I walk through the door and I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so anxious. And it was just like, it's like the scariest thing ever to like walk into your own home and feel lost, and like there's so much pressure. And so I walked in and I got sick, and so like I walked out, threw up, and then I was like, oh, something's going on, must have smelled something, then tried to walk back in, was too anxious to walk back in. So then I slept in my office for about a week, then decided to come to Chicago because I was like, oh, there's so much pressure around my conference, it's going to be in Chicago, I just need to be closer to where my conference is going to be. Plan to come to Chicago for 6 weeks just to like work through the launch. The conference, I wound up canceling the conference because I just wound up canceling the conference. And after the conference was canceled, and I technically had no stress, right? Like there was really no reason for me to be stressed. Like I got incredibly sick and I like couldn't get out of bed, and I couldn't get up. I could not do anything. Man, it was really hard. And even just like thinking about it now, I'm just like, I still can't believe it. I'm just like, I couldn't, like, do you know what it's like to like be awake, but you can't move? You can't, like, anyway, so I couldn't get up, and that lasted for several months until, and maybe after like a couple of weeks, hold on just one second, I can't see anything. So that lasted a couple of months, and I finally got to a point where I was able to reach out to a therapist. It started working. So eventually I'm slowly but surely like coming out of this depressive state, this super anxious state, this trigger state, with the help of like therapy and whatnot. And so that's going on for months and months and months and months and months. And I finally get to a point in my therapy and in my healing in September where I am healthy enough to examine my circumstance, if that makes sense. So before, it's like I was in a bad situation, but I was not healthy enough or mentally strong enough to even like have any level of awareness of what was going on. Like it's literally like I went to sleep in January and I woke up in September. Like that's sort of the way that experience was for me. Like that's how foggy and dark, and like it's like I went to sleep and I woke up. Like, it's like time is very different when you're like that level of depression. And so in September, when I woke up and I was like looking around, I was like, oh my gosh, like how did I get here? Like what have I been doing for these last few months? Like how have I been existing? Like I don't understand what I've been doing with all of my days. And so there was a level of awareness of where I was and how bad my situation was. And there was a level of awareness that like I hadn't worked, and that I haven't been talking to anyone, and I hadn't seen my son. There was like, man, it's crazy because it's like been a year, but it's like it's still very fresh. But there was like a level of awareness of like, you were so sick, like you haven't even seen your son. Like, there's so much stuff that like you haven't done because you just haven't been able to do anything. And so anywho, as my awareness is coming and my mental faculties are coming back and my capacity to be able to think and reason is coming back, I'm looking around my situation and I'm literally in a gorgeous 2-bedroom, fully furnished Airbnb, and I'm going to therapy, I want to say 2 times a week, every single week. I have food in the refrigerator. I have like everything is taken care of, and I'm looking around and I'm realizing that none of that stuff was taken care of by me. And I talk about this in a different video, but like there definitely was one person in my life who took care of all of that, who is a genuine person who was just like, I see that this is, and I remember like being like, why are you doing this? And they were just like, people are, I did not expect for this to be this emotional. And they were just like, life happens to everybody. You just happen to be going through a difficult time in life. Like this happens to everybody, like it's all right. Like don't worry about anything, kind of a thing. But anywho, so I just remember looking around at my circumstances and not being able to recognize myself from the perspective of being away from everyone. But also because I've been working since I was like 12, I also didn't recognize myself in this position where someone else was completely taking care of me and I wasn't taking care of anything. And that was very difficult and it was very jarring. And while I was very appreciative of this person's support, it was also very difficult for me to realize that like for months I have not taking care of myself. And it's not just that I haven't taken care of myself, it's that you haven't taken care of yourself. And just months ago, like, you were freaking in New York scouting locations for a conference. People were paying you $1,000 a seat for a conference. So it's not like you're just not taking care of yourself and you never were. It's like, no, you made a crap ton of money and you can't buy yourself food. You can't buy yourself feminine hygiene products. Like, you can't see your son when you want to. Like, I was just like, how in the world did I get here? I'm at this moment in September where I'm just very aware of my circumstances, sort of my lack of contribution to the world around me over the last several months. And in my mind, it's not just the depression, anxiety, and PTSD symptoms that are overwhelming me. It's me also being fully aware that I had made so much money and I had absolutely not a single dollar to my name, and that I was 150 million% dependent. Like, if this person had made a different decision, I actually have no idea what I would have done, where I would have been. And there was this level of like desperation and just like shock of like, let me get this straight. You don't have anything. Like, you don't have a home. You don't have access. Like, you don't have anything. And you don't have anything, and you have nothing to show for all that you did once have. All the money that flowed through you, you were not a good steward of it. And so I was just very, very aware of that. And so I just remember, like, and I think it really, like, it was over the course of September, but it really hit me hard, like, when it came to like my feminine hygiene products, because I was just like, obviously I've needed these over the months, and I wasn't aware of my need for them because it was just taken care of. But once you start feeling better, you're aware of your need for things. And so I just remember being like, I can't even take care of my feminine hygiene products. Like, what has happened to my life? Like, what has happened? Like, what did I have done something horribly wrong. And not that I'm being punished and this is a punishment, but I'm saying I have done something horribly wrong because I don't have the $3.49 to just get my feminine hygiene products. I just remember being like, something has to change. And it's not them, it's not anybody else, it's me, because that money did not go to any, and I'm just looking at, I mean, there's obviously the other changes from a mental, emotional, psychological side, right? Like, and I addressed that in other videos, but this specifically, when I was thinking about from a financial perspective, I was like, that money did not flow through anyone else's hands but my own. I am the only person who is responsible for the money that I had and the lack of money that I have now, and it makes no sense. So I have to be willing to admit the level of foolishness, the level of ignorance, and the level of like arrogance and pride at which I spent the money that I did have, right? Like, there was foolishness in it because I didn't know what I was doing. There was ignorance in it because in addition to not knowing what I was doing, I didn't even know that I didn't know what I was doing, right? And then there was like an arrogance piece. The arrogance piece was because I was making so much money and more money than I had ever made in my entire life, I just assumed that it would continue to come. I didn't even have the expectation or the hope that it would grow. I just was like, well, this is my new level now, so this will always come. And physically and emotionally shutting down and experiencing nervous exhaustion and realizing like, no, Stacey, if you don't go to work, this money ain't coming. Like, this isn't your new baseline. This is an experience that you had because you did put in the effort and you worked hard. There was just this level of arrogance that like my strength, my gifts, my ability would be able to keep this money flowing into my life. And then there was a measure of pride, and the pride came in when I had the full awareness of how dependent I was. Because I'm telling you, when you're sick, you don't even know. I didn't even know. But as soon as the light bulb came, the fog started to clear, I was just like, oh my gosh. I just remember having all of those emotions and journaling everything out. And I'm like, I wrote everything down, and I'm just like, you can't, like, because I kept saying, this isn't my life, this isn't my life. And I was just like, you're never going to get out of this situation until you accept that this is your life, that this is actually who you are, this is actually what you've been building, you did this. No one did this to you. No one contributed. It wasn't, no, you did this. You did this. And so then I like got to the point where I was just like, all right, fine, I'll accept that I did this. And then I was just like, okay, how did this happen? And I was just like, in my journal, I'm like, this happened because I lied to myself. It wasn't just about the ignorance, because I think that I have more grace for my ignorance, because, you know, there are just some things that you don't know that you don't know. So I have grace for that. But I don't have as much grace for my foolishness and my arrogance. And the reason why I don't have as much grace for that is because there were things that I knew better, and I chose not to do better. And I chose not to do better because, again, I was relying on my own strength. I was relying on my own, you know, power. Like, I got it. This is me later. And I was just like, you will never be so foolish and ignorant and arrogant and prideful about money that you ever put yourself in this position again. I don't care if you never make as much money as you had before. You will figure this out. And the other thing that happened too when I was doing all the journaling is I realized I was just like, money solved none of my problems, because before making a ton of money, I thought that money would solve all my problems. I'm like, no, money solves many problems, but the problems that I had, money had zero impact on them. Okay, zero impact. And so even just realizing that, like, that helped me to really, really get to the bottom of like my rock bottom moment, in the sense of like, I had to face that, like, there were relationship problems that I had. There were emotional, psychological, mental problems that I had that I didn't want to face. And I just assumed that money would take care of them. And realizing that money wouldn't, it shifted something in me from me being like, it's about making more money so I don't have these problems, to it shifting to, no, it's about you solving these problems and learning how to manage your money. Because you know now, it doesn't matter how much money you make. All that matters, Stacey, at least for you, is whether or not you're going to manage that money. Because that's the thing. And some of you guys don't know this. Like, I tried Dave Ramsey before. I did the Gazelle Intense. I did all of the things, right? But I did them with the mindset that most people have, which is, well, I'm going to take a little bit from Dave Ramsey. I'm going to take a little bit from what I learned from my mom. I'm going to take a little bit from about how I feel. I'm going to take a little bit from here. Like, I did the whole, I'm going to do the Dave Ramsey-ish program, as opposed to just following his program. And as my income increased, all of those habits, all of the skills, all of the tools that he puts in place, so as your income increases, you don't plummet the way that I did, none of them even, they didn't matter. Like, they went out the window. There was a certain amount of money that once I started making it, I was just like, well, okay, I understand Dave wants us to do this, but I don't really need to do that, because next month, you know, I can just make up for it. And so I just started to make all these excuses. And so I had to realize, Stacey, your issue isn't with earning money. And understand that a lot of people were really confused as to why I was working part-time and also being on the Dave Ramsey program, and how I was so confident and how I was so clear that I understand what you guys want me to do, but what I'm going to do is work part-time, is because I know for me, earning money isn't my issue. I don't have an issue earning money. I have an issue keeping money and managing money. So for me, quickly earning money in the beginning of this process wasn't a priority for me, because I needed the tools. Like, I needed the habits. I needed to know that I was going to follow a budget no matter how much money I made, right? Does that make sense? So it wasn't, and I needed the space to heal mentally and emotionally as well. So I think that, like, you know, my sick and tired moment was like me having to come face to face with the fact that I was at a pinnacle of success and I plummeted to a bottom that I didn't even know I could hit after having reached so much success, and being at that bottom and realizing that I couldn't recognize myself. I didn't like myself. Like, I love talking, you guys. Like, I don't think people understand how much I love speaking and thinking and reading. And when I was super sick and I couldn't think, I couldn't speak, like, I would be thinking about stuff that I want to say and I couldn't find the way to form my mouth to say it. That is hard for me. And I was just like, I can't ever allow myself to get back to this place. But I understand that if I don't figure out how to manage my money, one, I won't be able to afford to get the support that I need so that mentally and emotionally I can heal the things that take my voice. But two, I won't be in a position to be myself, because that's what I feel like I lost, like, when I plummeted. I lost myself. Like, I couldn't even be a mom. Like, I couldn't be a friend. I couldn't be any of the, I don't want to keep crying about this, but it's just like, that was my sick and tired moment. It's just like, I am tired of losing myself because I refuse to learn the lesson of money. And having this much debt, not being responsible, like, for my financial choices prevents me from being able to be myself. Like, I am a great person. Like, I am a loving person. I am a kind person. But when I'm carrying this much debt, I don't have time to be with my friends and my family in the way that I want. Like, I don't have time to be present with them because this pressure that I feel to get this paid off is real. And it's not real just because I want to be free from the debt. It's real because I have whole entire real responsibilities. My son will be in college in less than 2 years. There are things that I want to do with my life and ways that I want to contribute that I can't do because this debt acts as a barrier. I want to wake up every single day and recognize myself. I want to wake up every single day and be the person that I know that I'm called to be. I want to wake up and be myself. I don't want to wake up and have to make these desperate choices. When people ask me, like, how do you stay motivated? How are you able to be so transparent online? Like, how are you able to continue working part-time? Why do you believe that you're going to be able to do this? It's because I've hit my sick and tired moment. I am sick and tired of making a crap ton of money and having absolutely nothing to show for it. I am sick and tired of being away from my son. I am sick and tired of knowing who I am, but not being able to be that because I don't know how to be a good steward, or I don't want to be a good steward. And so it's just like, for that reason, it doesn't, negative things people say online, I mentioned this in another video, a lot of that is just me reflecting the parts of you that you don't like, but a lot of it doesn't hit me either, because what you have to say, I promise you, is not worse than being in the position that I was in a few months ago, 11 months ago when I started this journey. What people think, nothing compares to being in such a dark place. I'm tired of not being able to manage the problems of my life. I'm tired of not being able to be myself. Like, I'm exhausted, and I don't want to live here for the rest of my life. I don't want to wake up 5-10 years from now still this exhausted, and I won't wake up 5-10 years from now still this exhausted. So one of the things that I realized when I was like, in the thick of it, journaling it, like, realizing that I was at my financial rock bottom and I had hit my sick and tired moment, like, it wasn't like the loss of the house or the loss of my car, because I mentioned in a few videos I let my car get repossessed. It wasn't the loss of things, because I wholeheartedly believe, like, you can get another house, you can get another car, but it was like I felt like I lost my life. And it's just like, you literally only get one life. And I was like working so hard and doing so much stuff, and I made all the money, and it didn't matter because I did not learn the skills to manage it. Like, it didn't matter. And it's just like, you guys, we get one life. The things that we are purchasing with the money that we have, potentially to impress other people, potentially to shore up our self-worth, our self-confidence, for whatever the reason is that we're purchasing. And this is specifically if you're purchasing with debt, right? We are purchasing these things because we want them to add value to our life. And we are purchasing these things with the heart and the intent to maybe even add more comfort, maybe add more security. And for those of you who are doing it without debt, bravo to you. For those of you who feel like you're doing it and you're able to manage it with debt, bravo to you. But for those of you who feel like how I feel, and there's a weight and a pressure to the amount of things that you have purchased with credit that is suffocating you to such a degree that you don't get to be yourself. You're stressed when you're with your kids. You're tired when you're with your spouse. Like, you're not a good friend. It's like realizing that, like, that was coming from piss poor financial behavior. I was like, I don't want to be this woman. I don't want to be this person. You know, like, even in my business, like, I want to be generous, but I can't afford to be generous because I need your money. Like, that's where I was. I'm like, I don't want to be that type of a person. And so it's just like, you can replace the house, you can replace the car, you can replace those things. You cannot replace your life. You get one. You cannot replace your kids. You know, like, every moment you're not with them, that's their life. And so many of us are not with our family, not with our friends. We're not in our relationships present because we have to work to pay off debt for things. That was my sick and tired. I just got to the point where I just realized, I'm like, I'm not myself. I'm not myself. So now that I have literally cried all my makeup off, I want to close with this email that I received, because I just think that it speaks to the necessity of a sick and tired moment before you take the leap to do anything, but especially before you do the work of actually committing to getting out of debt and living the rest of your life by cash. So the subject line is, I'm in tears right now. And I'm gonna disguise any identifying information. So it says, hello, Miss Stacey. I'm literally in tears writing this to you. I just finished watching your video, 6 things I gave up to get out of debt. This by far was your best video. Skipping. I've been following your channel since the first quarter of 2017. I'm in tears because I literally watched you start this debt-free journey in October of 2017. And here it is literally a year later, and you have made some phenomenal progress. And here I am, still fat, depressed, defeated, miserable, and wanting to give up and die. I literally watched, capital letters, you live your capital life while I did nothing, capital letters, to my own. One of the biggest curses of social media. I'm just in tears, Miss Stacey. It's not that I cannot. I've been so lazy being comfortable in the sunken place of a struggle city that I allow my past, my present, my pain, regrets, bitterness, depression, and misery to be my identity. Literally allow a whole, capital letters, year go by, and my life is still, capital letters, exact same. This was a wake-up call for me, and I know I need to make some real, capital letter, changes. You are a beautiful young woman, and I love your intelligence and inspiration, Miss Stacey. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Sincerely, Miss in Tears. And one, I wanted to just acknowledge you, Miss in Tears. Thank you for sending me this email. And two, I wanted to share this with you because what she's writing in this reminds me of, you know, my sick and tired moment. Like, you got to get to a point where you realize that, like, wait a minute, like, I'm watching other people's lives. Like, even some of you all are watching my life, and you're wonderful and encouraging and supportive, and that's awesome. But you're also watching it with a desire to improve your life. Some of you all are watching my life, and you're criticizing every single bit and piece of it. And it's just like, I welcome the encouragement and the criticism, because I think that it makes our community awesome, and it gives a lot of, like, different perspectives in the community. But what this email made me think of is how, like, we have to be mindful to not just watch other people's lives, because I have been on this journey for a year, and you can already see, as I'm moving into the second year, that things are starting to tick up. And in 11 months, I'm going to be at the end of the second year, and I'm going to be in a different place than I was the first year. And if there's any inclination inside of you that's like, man, I want to pay off all my debt, man, I want to get a handle on my finances, even if it's not about paying off all your debt, I just want to get a handle on my finances so I'm a kinder, sweeter, more loving mother, I'm a kinder, sweeter, more loving spouse, I'm a present friend, I'm a good employee. I want to become a better steward so that internally I can become a better person. It's like, I highly encourage you to search your life for your sick and tired moment, because you may have hit your sick and tired moment, but you just didn't get up with a plan, because that happens to a lot of people. Like, I was fortunate enough that I already knew who Dave Ramsey was in the midst of me examining my sick and tired moment. But I say this all the time, Dave Ramsey is not the only financial guru out there who can help you to manage your finances. And it's like, you may have hit your sick and tired moment, but you didn't have the insight of whose plan to pick up and follow. But let this video, if it resonated with you at all, be the catalyst to say, okay, I'm at my sick and tired moment, I need to find a resource that can support me in becoming a good financial steward. And then the question is, well, why does it matter? Like, money is not important. And here's my thought about that. People who say money is not important, but you're in a crap ton of debt, you are being economically irresponsible, and that's a cop-out, because if money wasn't important, you wouldn't be in debt. So for people who are like, oh, you know, why are you making such an emphasis about money? Like, money isn't everything, money doesn't fix everything. And it's just like, I agree, money doesn't fix everything, but money allows you the opportunity to fix everything, and that's important. And most people miss that. Most people miss that the reason any of us that you're watching on YouTube, or any person that you're watching financially go through their journey, they're doing it because they want the opportunity to fix their own problems. And sometimes without money, you don't have the opportunity to fix your own problems. I have to pay my therapist. That costs money. I need to become a good financial steward so that I can pay this person so that they can do what they've been gifted and called to do and give me the work on my mind that I need. Like, that flow of like resources in exchange, there's nothing wrong with that. Let's not make that exchange wrong. Let's just become good financial stewards and position ourselves to be able to access and take advantage of this flow and exchange of resources that's going on over here, especially when we need it. And so it's just like, Miss in Tears, I hear what you're saying, and I hope that you sending this email and you experiencing that was a sick and tired moment for you, and that every day since then that you've been making small but mighty steps to change your situation financially. And I hope anyone who is watching any of my content and you are feeling drawn to doing something so that you can become a better financial steward, that you go somewhere and find your sick and tired moment, and you let that be the catalyst that causes you to commit to a financial plan and free yourself financially, so you can show up in this world and be the person that you have been called to be. So that is all that I have for you today. I deeply appreciate you all for supporting my work. I cannot emphasize enough how impactful you all have been on this journey. I'm super excited to be going into the second year, especially knowing that I'm going inside of the second year with such an amazing community. And so I look forward to talking to you all very, very soon. Bye.